A little bit about lawyers, not a whole lot. Well, it's a story about life, and life is full of sadness and happiness and tears, and I wanted to grab, let's face it, the reader's attention. And it seemed very interesting to me that this couple, Caroline and her husband Tom, also a lawyer, are just sitting down to dinner for a relaxing dinner, and they don't have many of those in their life. And their supper is interrupted by this first phone call, which is their daughter Kay, attempting to tell them this happy, glorious news that the most wealthy, most eligible young bachelor, Trey, has asked her to marry him. And she has great difficulty getting these words out because she's sobbing so hard. And then the second phone, the children's phone, rings, and it's Caroline's sister Taffy telling her that her husband of some 30 years, right, midlife crisis time, and she's calling to tell Caroline that Nettie has left her for another woman, much younger than her daughter, actually. Anyway, I wanted to capture the reader's attention with the first chapter, and then, of course, the rest of the book is how these people work through these difficulties. He does indeed. I think he's a real, he serves as the ballast for the family. I think he has great wisdom, he has great contracting skills, physical skills. He has great taste in even bridal gowns, which is shown later on in the book. But most of all, he's just a kind and gentle man that everyone feels comfortable coming to and talking with. And he's based on my husband, actually. Yes, he does have a beautiful daughter who is an integral part of the book as well. Her dog, Stamp. That's right. Stamp is all of Taffy's anger wrapped up in a little Chihuahua skin. That's right. And Kay, he has a daughter, Kay, actually has 4 children, and they're all, 3 are attorneys and 1 is an attorney-to-be. Well, his name is Jack, and he's the romantic figure. I mean, Trey is when I first started writing about Trey, I thought I wasn't going to like him because he was so perfect. He was so handsome and so rich, and his manners were so good. And yeah, but Jack, Kay's other male friend, is a very romantic figure. You know, he's handsome. He's devil-may-care. He always kind of needs a shave, and he's a little rumpled looking. I mean, he's just a very sexy character. And everything in me thought that Kay would just give everything up, her big diamond, her wonderful, dreamed of life, and run off with Jack. I really believed that would happen. I did. When I found out, as I was writing, what a really nice man Trey was. Yeah, it's just all the characters together in one room. And you're right, there's all kinds of happiness and joy here, but there's all kinds of tension. You know, Caroline sees Jack, and she sees the way Jack has been looking at Kay, and she sees Trey adoring Kay, and she knows there's something wrong here. And she's afraid Trey is going to see this, although I think Trey is so caught up in his romance with Kay, he doesn't see it. Jack then sees Holden and is immediately drawn to her like a moth to the light. Woodrow is in the background, as you say, and yet really not in the background. This is the first time anyone in the family has seen him in a coat and tie, because he's always been the worker bee and the honored worker bee. And George is speechless over Erica. Tom, I think, is just the gentle father, the umbrella over all, over the household. You know, I don't think I have known anyone well that is that driven. I think I have read about people that are that driven. I think I've read about movie actresses or she is. She absolutely is. I really do. When I say she radiates, I mean she just has such charisma about her. Not only her physical beauty, but the fact that she just can't say anything wrong. I mean, she's warm, she's delightful, she's sexy, she's intelligent. She has it all at Jet Setter, and she's absolutely aware of her charm, so she knows just how to use it. And that's what makes her so special. And when you ask me if I've ever known anyone like that, see, I think I get all my characters from life. I don't think I have imagination enough to just dream them up. But I don't think I've ever known anyone just like Holden. No, to tell you the truth, I expected what would happen with Nettie and Taffy. I think, of all the characters in the book, I feel most sympathy toward Nettie. Nettie made a terrible mistake, but Nettie is the product of his parents and his circumstance. He really doesn't know any better. He's kind of a good old boy that just doesn't know any better. And I believe he really loved Taffy and needed Taffy desperately. He just got kind of carried away. Honest with one another, which I think they had never been able to be. And I think they finally found that path to honesty and therefore a path to love. Well, the Bennetts are the most wealthy people in town, and they want a huge wedding for their son. And they want everything. I mean, the biggest orchestra, it's going to be done at their club. It's going to have a sit-down meal. She's got to have the best wedding dress and 12 attendants. And it's got to be done. It's got to be the best wedding that Raleigh-Durham has ever seen for 900 people. And it gets to a point where it's going to cost $500,000. And Tom and Caroline just simply can't begin to afford that. So they're too embarrassed to go to the most wealthy family in town and say, really nice that your son asked our daughter to marry him, but we can't afford you. And this presents a difficult problem because they don't have the courage to confront the situation honestly, but they know they have to. So a lot of time is spent in the book with Tom and Caroline talking back and forth, trying to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and avoiding making the telephone call, to say, Mrs. Bennett, we really just can't do a wedding like this. I tend to like all my characters. I don't write about them if I don't like them. Yes, I like Jack for what he was. Jack was Jack. I mean, I don't think he ever lied about who he was. I think it definitely made her a better person. I think Taffy had lived in an extremely isolated situation. She was from in a very wealthy family situation in Atlanta. She was married to Nettie. She enjoyed the beautiful home, the beautiful cars, the beautiful clothes, and she took care of Nettie. And I think that was her life, her world. When he left her, she was forced into a different kind of a world. And I think she discovered a lot about Taffy that she didn't know. And she was a much nicer person than we could ever have expected, certainly than Caroline expected. I don't think she imagined it either. But I just think she saw a side of life that hadn't revealed itself to her before. Happy, and was there for her in spite of all the differences that they had had in the past. Well, after I finished Julie and Romeo, I thought I was finished as a writer. I'd been a nurse all my life. That's all I did. And I wrote Julie and Romeo under a set of particular circumstances in that I wanted to tell the story of two people over 60 who fall in love. And after I told that story, I thought, you know, it's over. I'll go back working in the Frisk Clinic. And and then one night, after Julie and Romeo was out, after it was successful, I was falling off to sleep, and I thought of this phrase, step ball change, which is a tap dancing step, as I'm sure you know. It's like the most basic step of tap dancing. And the fact is, you're kind of headed in one direction, and you do a little kind of shuffle thing, and you head in the other direction. And that, to me, is very metaphorical for life. And I've always loved the phrase step ball change for the sound of the words, for the metaphorical meaning that it had for me. And I thought, I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to call it Step Ball Change.